What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie The Burial. Here's a quick synopsis. Funeral home owner Jeremiah O'Keefe hires personal injury lawyer Willie Gary after his deal with a big corporation goes awry. The film stars Jaime, Foxx, Tommy Lee Jones, Mamadou Athie, Alan Ruck, Bill Camp, and Jurnee Smollett. Standout performances. The role Jamie Foxx is given in this movie is perfectly suited to his skills as an actor. In the movie, he plays confident lawyer Willie Gary. Foxx has been so good for so long, going all the way back to Any Given Sunday, where he played young quarterback Willie Beeman, Collateral, where he played taxi driver Max, and one of my personal favorite movies, Django Unchained, as the titular character. The actor has been on a great run lately. Foxx has starred in Just Mercy, for which he should have received an Oscar nomination, Pixar's Soul, which is one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. Foxx is one of the last true movie stars where you watch him on screen and you automatically go, yeah, that's what a movie star is supposed to be. Endlessly charismatic and can carry an entire movie on his own back. Foxx's co-star in The Burial is Tommy Lee Jones, who I grew up watching in the Men in Black movies and Batman and Robin, and because of the nature of those movies, I had no idea he was actually also one of the best dramatic actors alive. And of course, I've gone back and watched his all-time great performances in JFK, The Fugitive, and No Country for Old Men. In The Burial, Tommy Lee Jones plays Jeremiah O'Keefe, a family man who owns a funeral home, who has been cheated out of a deal. There's just not a lot of movies nowadays that have two Oscar winners paired together. And the best part is that Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones have legitimate chemistry together. And I love the fact that Willie Gary, played by Foxx, legitimately cared about Tommy Lee Jones as Jeremiah, more than just his client. And with Jones playing this character, he makes a good person more interesting than if he were played by a lesser actor. I also just once again want to say how good Tommy Lee Jones is in the movie Ad Astra, directed by James Gray. That is a recent Tommy Lee Jones performance that I believe is super underrated. And some might say what I'm about to say is a diss, but Tommy Lee Jones is one of the greatest supporting actors of all time. He's not like Jamie Foxx to me. I don't think for the most part Tommy Lee Jones should be the lead of a movie. He just fits in so well with other great movie stars. In Lincoln, he shares the screen with Daniel Day-Lewis. In The Fugitive, he's paired with Harrison Ford. Going all the way back to Men in Black, he's paired with Will Smith. I mean, get Tommy Lee Jones on screen with another movie star, and he brings his absolute A game. In JFK, he goes toe-to-toe with Kevin Costner. I mean, that's who you want to see Tommy Lee Jones paired with. Other legitimate movie stars. That's when he does his best work. So I came to this movie to see these established stars be in a movie together, and I walked away most impressed with Mamadou Athie. He's been great in everything I've seen him in, beginning with Unicorn Store, a small film co-starring and directed by Brie Larson, The Frontrunner, a movie about the scandal for presidential hopeful Gary Hart, Jurassic World Dominion, and Disney Pixar's Elemental, which came out this year. Athie is an actor I believe is going to be a movie star. I think his gift as an actor is his subtlety. It's interesting that he's in the same movie as Jamie Foxx, because Jamie Foxx is really going for it in The Burial, but Mamadou Athie is bringing subtlety to his role. Both are equally brilliant in the movie and are the reasons to watch The Burial. I just really like to see a movie where there's two different acting styles in that film, and that's what The Burial offers. You can see Jamie Foxx going for the really flashier role, and then you can see Mamadou Athie doing his absolute best to be subtle while also still be notable in the film. The director and co-writer of The Burial is Maggie Betts, whose debut film was the very solid Novitiate starring Margaret Qualley. And this is a very different kind of movie, but both are really good and shows her range as a filmmaker. She can do comedy. The Burial is a funny movie. A couple things that I really liked about this movie is that this movie is based on a real life story, like the events in the film actually happened. The other thing I really liked is that the stakes weren't super high. Yes, they were big, but it was just about one person. This wasn't a life or death situation. This wasn't an epic film about the future of all mankind. These were real people that exist, and it doesn't have to be an historical figure. Like, this movie didn't need to be a biopic. You can make movies about real life events that aren't super well known. This is an interesting story. This is a story that deserved to be a movie. I think it's interesting enough where you can make a movie about it. Now, I think one of the reasons the movie was made because of the actors that got attached. I think the minute you get Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones, the movie gets greenlit. But overall, I do believe it's an interesting enough story to become a movie. And I talked about this a lot last week with the Kane Mutiny Court-Martial. I love courtroom dramas, and this movie is a courtroom drama with a mix of comedy to go with it. I mean, Jamie Foxx is really going for it. I believe courtroom dramas are great for acting performances. I mean, think about the all-time great acting performances. They most likely occurred in courtroom dramas. Here's just a few off the top of my head. Paul Newman in The Verdict, a great courtroom drama. Jack Nicholson in A Few Good Men. Tommy Lee Jones in JFK and Lincoln. Edward Norton in Primal Fear. Matthew McConaughey in A Time to Kill. I mean, the list goes on and on. You want movie stars to be in courtroom dramas because that's where the great performances come from. It's a movie genre I very much want to remain alive. Like, I love that every few years or every year there is a great courtroom drama that has great actors involved. I want the genre to thrive because I grew up on the genre. I grew up watching A Few Good Men, Francis Ford Coppola's Rainmaker, Philadelphia with Tom Hanks and Denzel Washington. I mean, those are the movies that have the most impact. But those movies were no doubt more popular back in the day. They were Oscar movies. They were movies that would do well in movie theaters. I mean, a lot of people saw the movie A Few Good Men in movie theaters. And that gets us to what everybody is talking about with The Burial. All the chatter I'm seeing is about the fact that this movie has the feeling of an old school crowd-pleasing courtroom drama. It stars big-time movie stars, 2 Oscar winners in Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx. And everyone is saying this movie would have been a hit 10 to 15 years ago, and I get it. You're nostalgic for a time where movies were more popular, but I'm kind of sick and tired of hearing about every movie that would have been a big hit 10 to 15 years ago. At some point, we have to stop talking about the way that movies were, and we have to admit where movies are right now. And the fact is that movies are at a place where only 1 or 2 films at most can dominate the zeitgeist, including box office, headlines, star power. There are only a few movies that can really connect with people on a mainstream level. A movie like The Burial, we should not be rating it against what it's doing on a streaming service the week of. We should review this movie in about 5 years and see if it has any real impact. Do people like this movie? Are they still talking about this movie? Is this a movie that gets rediscovered as the years go by? That's how a movie like this should be judged. I don't think it's fair to say this movie isn't any good because it didn't make any money at the box office, because it didn't even go into movie theaters. We need to stop having that kind of conversation about these streaming movies. I really like this movie. Again, it has 2 massive movie stars that I grew up watching. They were in those big movies that everyone saw. Everyone saw Any Given Sunday in movie theaters. Everyone saw The Fugitive. I mean, these guys are kind of the faces of how movies have really changed. The fact is that these guys who were titans of the industry are now in this movie on Amazon Prime that probably a lot of people don't even know is on the streaming service. That's how dramatic things have changed. And I don't want to be a downer, but I don't think they're going to go back to the way things were. I don't think a movie like this is ever going to be able to make 50 to 80 million at the box office ever again. And those are the kind of numbers that it would need to make to justify going to the box office, because movies are either going on streaming services or hitting movie theaters and then being released digitally in about a month later after the release. A movie like this wouldn't do well in movie theaters. The movies that are doing well are Barbie, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, movies made by all-time great filmmakers, or the Taylor Swift concert. Those are the movies doing really well in movie theaters, and The Burial isn't one of those movies. If you watch this movie, you would go, oh, I believe Jamie Foxx should be in consideration for an Oscar nomination for his performance in this film. But I have no idea if Jamie Foxx actually qualifies for an Oscar run because the movie was released on a streaming service. I have absolutely no idea, and that's part of the problem, is that the award consideration even goes away for a movie like this. I would love Jamie Foxx getting a Best Supporting Actor nomination for his work in The Burial because he's that good in the movie. You'll watch the movie and you'll go, yes, this is why this guy is considered a major movie star. And I've said this about award shows like the Oscars before on this podcast, but the point of those awards shows should be to get people to see movies like The Burial. Like if they nominate Jamie Foxx for his performance, more people obviously would seek out the movie and see that it's really good. A movie like Barbie doesn't need Ryan Gosling to get an Oscar nomination. I know he's great in the movie. I know he's deserving of the nomination, but a movie that needs an actor to get nominated is a movie like The Burial, because again, if the word comes out that Jamie Foxx's performance in this film is Oscar worthy, way more people will seek the movie out, which they should do anyway, but they need those awards to push a movie like this. That should be the point of award shows, to get people to see movies that otherwise they wouldn't see. It's not to nominate a bunch of performances for movies that made $1 billion. And I think that is kind of the sad part of this movie, is that because it's on a streaming service, a lot of people aren't going to see the movie with a crowd of people. Like I said earlier, I feel like this movie is a crowd pleaser. Like Jamie Foxx is giving one of those performances you want to see with a lot of people, because he's really going for it. He's really funny at times. He's charismatic. He is giving it his all. It's a really flashy performance. It's the kind of movie you would want to see with a lot of people instead of watching it alone at home. I do feel like we're at a weird place with streaming services and releasing movies in movie theaters. I mean, we're seeing Apple release some movies in theaters. Killers of the Flower Moon, that's Martin Scorsese, that got released in movie theaters. Ridley Scott's Napoleon is being released in movie theaters. Netflix feels like the big one. Like, will Netflix ever let one of their movies play for a long period of time in movie theaters? We saw that a little with the Knives Out sequel, but that was a rare case because Knives Out was a movie that was super successful in movie theaters and then was bought by the streaming service. I look at a Netflix movie like Fair Play and I'm like, that should have played in a movie theater. That is a thriller. That is an old school thriller that you want to see at the movies. Now, The Burial was made by Amazon. It was released on Amazon, and Amazon has made movies in the past that did very well in movie theaters. Manchester by the Sea was a movie that was an Oscar film. Casey Affleck won the Oscar, and the reason that happened is because the movie just wasn't released on Amazon. They put it in movie theaters. I believe theaters and streaming services can coexist way better than they are right now. I also look at a movie like The Burial, and I see that it has a 90% score on Rotten Tomatoes. I know a lot of people hate Rotten Tomatoes, and it's a degrading way to look at a movie. But when a movie has a great review score like that, doesn't it make people want to seek out that movie? And more people are going to watch the movie on a streaming service because it has that score. Isn't it the same with movie theaters? Like, if a movie like this is getting great reviews, don't you want it to play in movie theaters? Couldn't it do well off of that score? That's what I don't understand about Rotten Tomatoes and movies that are on streaming services. The movies that have great scores or are getting really good reviews should play in movie theaters because more people want to seek out good movies, especially ones that star Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones. I cannot reiterate how big of movie stars these guys are. They have been the leads of movies that have been super successful. If people hear that a movie starring them is really good, call me crazy, I think they will then seek that movie out and go watch it in a movie theater. I still think that kind of thing still exists. Word of mouth should matter when it comes to a movie, and this movie has a really good word of mouth. And it's the type of thing that if the studio who made it knows it's really good, they should then go, wow, we should release this in movie theaters for a short period of time and see how well it does. And if it doesn't do well, by all means, release it on the streaming service the next 2 weeks if it doesn't do well. I just don't understand these windows. The right movies aren't the ones being picked to go to movie theaters and streaming services and vice versa. There are some people, and not many, who go, oh, this movie is on a streaming service, I'm not going to watch it because I have a bad history of watching movies on streaming services. We've all heard people make fun of what they deem as Netflix movies. They don't think very highly of any movie that comes from Netflix because of that. So I think a movie like this, like The Burial, there will be some people who go, oh, it was released on Prime, must not be worth my time. Overall, I really didn't know what to expect from The Burial. I went into it because it's a movie that stars Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx, two all-time Oscar-winning actors. I knew that they were at least going to be interesting, but the movie was way better than I expected it to be. Another selling point was Maggie Betts. I believe she is a director to pay attention to when she makes a movie. I will definitely seek it out. I loved Novitiate. This was a different kind of movie, but she does an equally good job on it. And again, Mamadou Athie is just an actor I'm watching for. Whenever he's in a movie, I want to see that movie because I think he's a young actor that has been given chances in big blockbuster movies and has taken that chance and really made something of it. I believe he's one of the best things in Jurassic World Dominion, which wasn't a really good movie. He's really great in Elemental, a movie that a lot of people thought was a flop when it came out, but it's done better at the box office than expected. I don't mean this in a wrong way or a diss to the movie, but sometimes it's okay for a movie to just be simple and pleasurable to watch, and that's exactly what The Burial is. It's simple in nature. It's a movie that's kind of just about the star power of these two actors. Like, the selling point is Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones. Yes, the plot is interesting, but it's the performances that drive home the movies, and those are the movies that I like the most. Movies with central performances that you need to see, and I believe Jamie Foxx gives one of those performances. I don't think you can say you've seen the best performances of 2023 without seeing Jamie Foxx in The Burial. I think he's that good in the movie. I think it's up there with his Oscar work in movies like Django, like Collateral. It's a reminder of why he's one of the biggest movie stars working today. It's a reminder of how good of an actor he is. Him in this movie was a match made in heaven. At the end of the day, the movie is a real-life story that not a lot of people know. It's interesting characters and really good performances by movie stars. That, to me, is all the ingredients for a really good movie, which is what The Burial is. I'm not saying it's groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination. I just believe it's impossible to watch this movie and not say it's a good film. The last thing I'll say about The Burial is this. I think it's okay to compare this movie to old school films because it does have that feeling. I also think it's perfectly perfectly all right to want more modern movies like it. That's what I want. I want more movies like The Burial. I want more movies that star massive stars in real life events that I never really heard of before. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out The Burial. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, starring Leonardo DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone, Robert De Niro, and Jesse Plemons. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.